Hey, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with a brand new Netflix movie review, and today we're discussing the legal drama by the name of Monster, which actually premiered at Sundance all the way back in 2018, but it was just recently, this past couple months, that Netflix picked it up, and it will be available to stream on Netflix this Friday, May 14th, and I'm gonna let you all know what I thought about this movie, and if you all should check it out, all in this spoiler-free review. Before we dive into it, make sure you're following me on all my other social media accounts. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you can get the alert when I drop new content. It would mean a lot to me if you all can like and share this review. It helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate all the support. And in those comments, let me know if this film was something you all were excited for, if it was something that was on your radar. And of course, once you've pressed play and watched this film, Monster, what'd you think about it? Let me know your pros, your cons, your thoughts on the performances, the story. Did you have more positives than negatives or more negatives than positives? Let's discuss it all in the comments below. So for me personally, when it comes to my anticipation level, I didn't know much about this film going into it, guys. I'm not going to lie. I didn't watch the trailer, didn't even read a synopsis. The thing that sold me in reaching out to Netflix to get this early screener was one person, and this cast is great, by the way, but it was one person that sold me on this film, going in completely blind, and that's Kelvin Harrison Jr. If you've been part of this community for a while, you know how highly I speak of Kelvin. I think he's one of the best actors in his age bracket. I think he's the best actor under 30, and you talk about future. Listen, my favorite actor of all time is Denzel Washington, and Kelvin Harrison Jr. has some early makings of someone of that caliber once he, gets further along in his career. I speak that highly of this young man, and if you don't believe me, watch Waves, watch Loose, and you'll know what I'm talking about. So he was what sold me in this film. So to say I was excited is an understatement. So going into this review here, starting off with my positives, hey, call me biased, call me a fan, call me whatever you want. Kelvin Harrison Jr. saves this film because I'll talk about it a little bit later in my criticisms, but it's what I love about Kelvin as an actor, and especially in this role and in similar roles to this, is he's able to convey emotion. Now, I don't think this film is the most impactful when it comes to the script, and kind of the story is a little bit kind of telegraphed and a little bit stereotypical in a sense, but it's still, you know what's coming, but it's Kelvin's conveying, he doesn't know what's coming, right? In regards to this film, not giving too much away, because again, I went into it completely blind, and I wanted you guys to kind of have that same experience. If you haven't read the synopsis or watched the trailer, you essentially have a 17-year-old boy by the name of Steve Harmon who has very big dreams. He is a up-and-coming filmmaker. He has a really good family he comes from. He has a good head on his shoulders. He makes a bad mistake one day. He gets involved with some people around the neighborhood, played by A$AP Rocky and John David Washington. Again, this cast is stacked. He gets involved in a robbery in a bodega. A man ends up dead, and now this bright future is no longer looking bright because he's now on trial for murder. So just seeing Kelvin go through that journey, this up-and-coming filmmaker, bright future, comes from a great family. Again, seems like he has a really good head on his shoulders, but just one bad decision can turn everything around. And just seeing this film kind of gives you present day with him going to jail, him being in jail, him not being able to be structured and being the mental capacity to be in jail. He doesn't belong there. So seeing him dealing with that on a day-to-day life, but then we get to see his past and see him coming up and seeing him having the dreams of being a filmmaker, him interacting with his teacher, his family, his friends, and just seeing this poor young man knowing that he's in a position where he's black, he's on trial for murder, and normally in these situations you're innocent to proven guilty, but in a lot of cases when it's a minority in a situation, you're guilty to proven innocent. So just seeing Kelvin portray that young man, I thought he was fantastic. He carried the film. He kept me invested. He kept me compelled. He's that type of actor to me personally, and I thought he was the best thing going for this film. Transitioning to some other things that I can think of, you do have a first-time director in Anthony Mandler, who is mostly known for commercial work. He does a lot of music videos for a lot of popular artists, and there are times that I thought he had some creative shots. He was able to capture the emotions and capture a certain theme throughout the film, and regarding the system, the court system, the way the jury presents, sees a particular person on trial. So I thought there were moments that this first-time director was able to convey a certain emotion. It wasn't throughout the film, but there were moments I thought the director did a good job. Some really creative shots. Again, he's a stylized type of director coming from his background, so there were some interesting shots. Outside of those things, I do want to mention this cast again because I think this cast is incredible. Not only is Calvin in it, but you have Jennifer Hudson, Jeffrey Wright, you have Tim Blake Nelson, a couple rappers that I'm a fan of, and particularly Nas, one of my favorite rappers of all time. And I haven't seen Nas in a lot of films, but Belly's one of my favorite films growing up. I thought he was fantastic in that. You have A$AP Rocky, who I really haven't seen him in movies, and we'll get to him a little bit later. But again, do yourself a favor. You can see this cast. Jarrell Jerome, one of my favorite actors. The cast is great. And listen, I thought that the performances, the actors in their roles did the best that they could, but I'll leave my criticisms with them a little bit later. But I didn't feel like there was a bad performance in this film, but I just feel like the characters weren't given that much, but we'll speak to that a little bit later. But outside of Calvin, outside of some themes that I thought should have been more heavily involved in the script, involving the system, the racial profiling from a jury, just kind of the idea of this black young man being on trial, I just feel like the film just didn't go further enough for me. But there are moments that the film does have a little bit to say in regarding, this is based on a novel. I haven't read the novel Monster, but from my research, it's critically acclaimed. It's an award-winning book, and I can see the foundation of something there. And I'm just going to go ahead and just transition from my criticisms. This film is boring. This film is dull. This film is very stereotypical. It's paint by numbers. There's an aspect of the film where, again, I'm just wondering, we see what Calvin's going through, what Steve's going through, but what is this? What are the ramifications of him potentially going to jail and his life being thrown away because of this bad decision? What is his home life like, right? We have Jeffrey Wright and Jennifer Hudson. I never felt the family dynamic. Again, two great actors. They both have individual moments where they visit their son in jail, and they have moments as a family, but just not enough moments. I never felt that family unit. And again, Jeffrey Wright is one of the best actors working today. Jennifer Hudson is an award-winning actress. I think she's great in her own right, but they just weren't working for me at all. As a family unit as a whole, I just didn't find it believable. You have other interactions, other great actors in this film. I mentioned Nas. He was pointless in this movie. A$AP Rocky, I like your music. You're not a good actor. He took me out of the moments. He was A$AP Rocky, if you know him as a rapper, you know he comes from a certain part. He kind of carries himself a certain way. I feel like he was acting like he was pretending to be A$AP Rocky in this role, which just didn't work for me. John David Washington, I'm a big fan of your work. And again, I mentioned who your daddy is, my favorite actor of all time. And John is kind of carving out his own lane in movies like Tenet, Black Klansman, Monsters and Man. But in this role, I don't know what John David Washington was doing. I think the direction that he was given was just like play a stereotypical gangster. And I wasn't a fan of John. This is my least favorite John Washington performance I've seen on him on screen. Wasn't impressed. I mentioned Jarrell Jerome. If you all have seen When They See Us, this man, Moonlight, and a couple other films, he was just recently in Concrete Cowboy on Netflix. I wasn't a fan of that film, but he's a great up-and-coming actor. Pointless. What they gave him was little to nothing. Tim Nelson Blake was in this film. Again, I just feel like there was so much wasted talent on this film in regards to the actors because they just weren't given much, which is unfortunate. Again, based on the novel and the little bit of notes I read, there was family turmoil. There was conflict within the family when Steve goes to jail. His parents somewhat have a bit of a rift in their relationship. None of that was in this film. I feel like this was a again, I haven't read the book, but reading the acclaimed nature and the awards and all the stuff, the profound conversations that the novel had, I don't see any of that in this film. Again, there's hints of it. There's conversations about a black man going to jail, and again, the jury automatically, you're guilty to prove it innocent versus the other way around. There's hints of that in the film, but the film doesn't go for it. It doesn't dive deeper into it. It's not provoking. It's not, again, it's very stale. It's very generic, and this film is an hour and a half. I would have thought it was 2 hours. It was 2+ hours, to be fair, because it just dragged on and went nowhere. It really didn't have much to offer, and I really do. There's 3 writers on this film who I'm not too familiar with their work, but I do have to come back to the first-time director, Anthony Mandler. He just didn't do it for me, guys. It was almost too stylized at times. Again, knowing his background comes from video, filmography, he's a photographer. And it's just like, can you just keep the camera still? Can we just focus on the actors in the scene versus the scene working on the actors? It was just too much camera motion. I can go on and on and on and rant about this film. And if I'm seeming to be a little harsh in the movie, it's just because again, if I go over that cast, I just was expecting so much more. One actor really did his job, and again, I thought that Kelvin elevated the film. I thought that he gave me more in the performance than what the script gave him, so I commend him. But outside of that, it was just so much wasted potential in this film, and that's just my opinion. Some of you all might have been moved, might have been thought-provoking, might have thought it was more to it than what I saw, but I just felt like this film was just lacking on all cylinders. So before I give you my overall thoughts and my ultimate score, make sure if you enjoyed this video to give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Any interaction with the video is muchly appreciated. Comment below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell. That way you don't miss any of my other content. Overall, I pretty much laid it out to you all. I thought Kelvin saved the film from being an absolute, complete waste of time. His character was the only thing that kept me going. His journey, his conveying the nature of not knowing where his life's going to be headed with his verdict being innocent or guilty. I thought that he was the best part of the film. Outside of that, I don't have much else positive to say about the movie. It really is unfortunate because, again, based on what I know from this book that I've read this little research on, the book has a lot to say about the justice system, about what this did to Steve's family, what it did to the neighborhood. Other surrounding characters seem to have a little bit more meat and a little bit more development in their characters, but this adaptation didn't have any of that stuff that I gathered from my research of the novel that, again, apparently this book is one of the best books in the last, 20 to 30 years. So the film isn't that. So with that being said, I'll give Monster a 2.5 out of 5, and that's just me being gracious because of Kelvin. And also there are some moments and some conversations that could be sparked from this film, but not enough from what I gathered from the book, which allowed a lot of conversation to be had. So it sucks because I was really looking forward to this film when I saw that cast, and it just feels like a lot of the cast was just wasted in this film for me personally. But that's just my thoughts on Monster. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your pros, your cons. Did you read the book? What did you think about the book and its adaptation to the small screen? And if you have a lot more positives to say about it, let me know. Let me know your thoughts, your pros, your cons, your thoughts on the performances. And let's just have a dialogue about it in the comments below. So thank you all for watching this review. Make sure again to like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell. That way you don't miss any of my other content. Hope you all are staying safe, and we'll see you in the next video.